Welcome to the lesson on graphing parametric equations. We're going to start with the graph of x equals t squared and y equals t cubed. Notice that we do have the parameter for t to be greater than or equal to -4 but less than or equal to 4. So the first thing we need to do is to change the mode on our calculator to parametric mode. So find the mode button, which is just to the right of the blue key. Press it. We're going to scroll down here to where we have the choices for function, PAR, that's parametric, POL is polar, and SEQ is for sequence. So we're going to change it to parametric mode. So scroll down, use the down arrow key, and then scroll to the right to highlight the PAR or the parametric mode, and then to choose it, press enter. Once you've done that, then we're going to go to y equals. At this point you see that you have two different equations that you can plug in, x equals and then y equals. So our two equations that we're going to plug in are x equals t squared. So the t is where the x button is. It's the same thing. It's that x comma t. Each one of those letters on there stand for a different function mode on the calculator. Because we're in parametrics, when we press this button, a t will appear. So t squared, you can either use the exponent button to get to the squared, or I'm going to use the shortcut button, which is the x squared button. And then I'm going to scroll down to the y equals, and now we need to plug in t cubed. So we go back to that xt theta n button, type it. We want to do the exponent button, and then we're going to cube it. So press 3. Now to get out of the exponent, we're going to scroll to the right. At this point we want to change our window because we do have a domain that we've restricted for t, and we need to restrict it to -4 to +4. So we're going to type in -4 and then scroll down +4, and where it says t-step, we're going to change that to 0.5. I'm going to talk about the t-step once we see the graph. Let's scroll back or go back to the y equals button. There's one other thing that I would like to change. Right here to the left of the X button is a solid line. We want to change that. Let's scroll back till we highlight that. We want to change it so that we can see the movement, because the neat thing about parametric equations is we can graph something on a rectangular coordinate system with respect to time. That's what the T stands for, usually, is time. So I want to see what happens over time, so I'm going to change this to a line with a little ball on the end of it, just so that we can actually see where it's moving. So to change that, I'm going to go down here to the enter button, and I'm going to press it. When I press it one time, you'll see that you get a bold line. Press it one more time, and you'll see that you get a line with a little circle on the end. So that's what I'm going to use. Now I'm going to scroll back over to the right, and now I'm ready to graph. So I'm going to just press the graph button. And here's our equation graphed over time. Notice that it sort of skipped. If you were noticing where the ball went, it kind of skipped places. That's because of the t-step. If you lower the value of the t-step, let's go back to window. If you lower the value of the t-step, the graph will graph slower. So the lower the value of t-step, the slower the graph will graph, and the more points that the graph will make. And what it does is it makes a point, and then it connects each point on the rectangular system. So I'm just going to change this to decimal point 0.05. And I'm going to go back to graph, and now watch it graph much slower. See how it's going slower? A lot of people don't want to see it slow, they just want to see the graph. So somewhere in between 0.5 and 0.05, probably 0.1 or 0.2 are good ways to start. I just wanted to illustrate this going slower. So we're going to graph the other part. I want you to notice as we're graphing this parametric function, this is not actually a function. If it fails the vertical line test over time, if you do that pencil test, this is not a function, but the graph will actually graph this in parametric mode. So that's what we use parametric mode for, is to see stuff over time, see a graph over time, and to also graph non-functions on our graphing calculator. Our second equation is a trig equation. It's still graphing. Do you see the little dashes over here? That tells you that it's still actually graphing. You can stop it from graphing by going to quit, or you can just wait it out if you want to. It should be finished soon. There we go. So we're going to go back to y equals. And now we just need to clear out what we have. Scroll down and clear out the y1. And now let's scroll back up. We want to type in 3 plus cosine theta. So I'm going to type 3 and then plus cosine. Now when I type the xt theta mode, remember it's going to say t. What you need to understand is that when you have an equation in parametric mode, even though it says theta, it's okay. It's just a variable. We can put a t in the place of theta. So I'm just going to plug that t in there, and then I'm going to close the parentheses. That's a good practice to be into, closing your parentheses. Then I'm going to scroll down to the y1, and I'm going to type in 2 minus sine theta. So 2 minus sine, and again we're going to exchange theta. We're actually going to type in a t because we're in parametric mode, and then close the parentheses. Now I'm going to scroll back and change my solid line to that little bouncing ball. It's a dragging ball. Let's see if it'll go backwards. I think I have to go up and then backwards, so back to the left. And now I'm going to press enter and get that solid line, bold line, and then enter one more time, and that's where we have the little ball that's going to bounce. Okay, we're going to go to zoom. I want to change my zoom to zoom decimal just because I already know what it looks like, and this is going to be a prettier picture. So it's graphing so slowly. Let's stop this graph and change our t-step. So I have to go to second off. I'm going to go back to the window. Let's change the t-step. So I just turned it off by going to second off, or you can go to second quit. The enter button when it's graphing and it's going too slowly, if you press enter, all you've done is pause the graph, so that didn't really help you. You actually have to come out of the graphing mode to make it stop graphing. So then we're going to press window, we're going to scroll down to t-step. Let's speed that up a little bit to say 0.2. We'll say 0.2. Now it's a little bit faster. And when you put these two sinusoids together, it's going to graph us a nice pretty picture. You're going to see it of you should know by now, it's a circle. So this is the parametric equation for a circle. This concludes our lesson on graphing parametric equations.